Okay, Lee. I was wanting to talk to you about science of spirituality because I want to try to put a wrap on what that whole thing was for me, and you're a good person to talk to about it. And I was thinking about it this morning because I woke up and, you know, you're supposed to go for the spiritual sound there. And during the period when I was involved in that group, part of it I was living in Warrenville and part of which I was living in Forest Park with Joe. I was desperate. I was so lost in emotional pain, not depression, trauma, from being traumatized by the psychiatrist and the diagnosis, traumatized by the meds, no life force to fight back. You know, when I got to Asheville, and most of the time in Asheville out of 16 years, 15 of them I was still lost in that diagnosis and those meds. And at one point, a long-distance friend of mine, an old Chicago friend, said, I was complaining to her on the phone, she lives in California now, that I don't cry anymore at that point. And that had been a really good thing for me for a long time. So, you know, I was a classic teenager. I spent a bunch of years not crying at all. But in my early 20s, when I got in co-counseling, I relearned how to cry, and it's always been a tremendous release for me. And my friends, who was the person who first floated the diagnosis of bipolar, because her sister's bipolar, really sharp, Tony Tiedemann out in California, really, really sharp young woman, not so young anymore, said, no crying, that's probably your meds, talk to your shrink. So I went in, Dave Manley was my shrink, and he was a really good guy in this private practice. Was in a men's group, studied Buddhism. Tara Singh was the woman he studied Buddhism through, not under, but through her work. So a really, really good guy. And I said, Dave, what do you think? Is it because of the meds that I can't cry anymore? And he said, probably. And he gave me the most sobering overview of what those mood stabilizers do. He says, they top off your top, they keep you from going too high, and they top off your lows, keep you from going so low, and yeah, they pretty much blur out everything in between. So you're not going to get any strong experiences. You're not going to have a clear experience of being alive while you're on those. And you have to decide if it's worth the trade-off. And he also had said 5%. Those meds probably help your pain, 5%. But if it's enough to keep you from killing yourself, you have to decide if you're ready to take that deal. And through that whole period, that was my, you know, what was it? Don Juan said to Carlos Castaneda, walk with your death over your left shoulder and converse with it always. It'll inform you. It's the Buddhist thing. If the only thing you know for sure you're going to die and you don't know when, how then do you live? So for me, through that whole period, it was suicide. Always walking with me, always walking with me. And Dave said that, and I said, okay, I'll take the deal, because I'm not going to commit suicide. I won't do that to people. Much as I wanted to. The siren song of suicide for so many years. So, yeah, so science of spirituality, I never liked that dude, whatever his name was. I thought, well, his father sounds like he was the real deal, Persian poet and all that, but I don't trust this guy at all. His talks never made much sense to me. I thought it was pure nepotism, and he didn't deserve the job at all. I never was impressed with him. But you guys were in, and I was desperate for something to keep me going. So I was always searching for that inner sound. And I remember there was a period where I did pick up a high kind of whining sound that I thought maybe was it. And that sound came back with a vengeance when I got out to Appalachia 3.5 years ago. And it was quiet out there and me getting so much more peaceful. I started to hear that sound a lot. And I conversed with Tom. We were okay then. And I said, is that the sound? I think that's just the humming of my own brain that I'm hearing. Tom says, yeah, that's what you're hearing. That's not the sound you're going for. But then shortly thereafter in Appalachia, I started getting a different sound, a deep hum. And it's very reassuring, and I always feel like it's healing me, and I tune into it. So I got it a lot in Appalachia, and for a long while, I had the idea that it was, I'm busy. No, go away. You go away. You are on my bad list, man. I will hurt you. I will hurt you. You come around in the night again, I will fucking hurt you. I'll put a hurt on you, man. Stay the fuck away from me. Stay the fuck away from me. By the way, los vecinos no les gusta. You live in this barrio, but they don't like you here. I didn't expect you to get to see that. I didn't think he was up this early. He indicated he wanted to smoke. That's the punk. So you've seen me in action, man. And it cowed him. It cowed him. He didn't rise to the occasion. Okay. You're gonna get to see that. Okay, so back to the deep spiritual sound. That was not a spiritual sound. Woo! I'm glad I have that on tape for me. That's gonna be good to see. I don't have a tape of me in action. Boundary setting. Woo! Oh, I'm shaking. That was intense. You know, back before I got good at anger, that would keep me rattled all day. I'd have been shaking for hours. But I'm a little shook up. Okay, I think I'm gonna break this, have a smoke, settle down, and then go back. Then go back to the deep inner sound. All right.